Hello and welcome to the Passport for the Prom section of our Strategy for Success. This ties in as obviously a reward at the end of the academic year to celebrate the successes, and also as an incentive on the way through as a motivational tool just to make sure pupils focus with obviously an end reward in sight. So at the moment, our prom is booked for the 7th of July at Walworth Castle. Obviously, we'll be flexible given COVID at the moment, that may have to move, but that's the date that we've currently got booked. So to be able to attend the prom, which we would say is a privilege and not a right, we would expect the pupils to complete a passport on the way to get there. So I'm just going to explain what that actually means and how we can go about getting that filled in. So the passport for the prom itself comes in 4 booklets, and the booklets are spaced over the time from the Monday the 16th of November, when we'll give the pupils their first one, running through right till May, when again we're heavily starting into exam season, although obviously again that's going to be a bit flexible this year with the announcements coming from the Department for Education yesterday. The passport for the prom itself is an A4 sheet of paper made into a little booklet, and inside is where all the information is needed. So every 5 weeks, pupils will need to ask their subject teachers to sign their passport for the prom. Within the 4 categories of there is a narrative target, punctuality to lessons, being a professional learner, and attending lesson 6. They're also required to record their actual attendance to whole school and then ask their form tutor to sign the passport for the prom. So looking inside the actual passport itself, you can see the subjects go down the first column, so you just need to write in what your options are. And then the narrative target, so again each one could be different over the 4 booklets. An example I would use for maths is that pupils were returning practice papers and green pen marking them as instructed, and assuming that that was happening when it came to me judging and ticking and filling in this prom passport at the end of the 5 weeks, I'd put a tick in the narrative target met, a yes, and then that would, again, I'd look at the punctuality to lessons, whether they've been a professional learner throughout those 5 weeks, and have they attended my lesson 6. I would tick those, and again, there's a bit of flexibility there. It's over 5 weeks, so if they've done it for 4 out of the 5 weeks, then that would relate to the points, which I'll explain when we go over onto the back of the prom passport. And again, I've already mentioned as we're going across, I think it's fairly straightforward. Punctual to lessons. The professional learner is, again, whole school initiative where we're expecting them to come prepared, ready to work, be organised, bring in any resources that you might need, and actually aim to meet their lesson objective every single lesson. And then the final column, again, this is just to make sure that the subject teachers are involved, to keep that dialogue open, to keep that understanding that why we're doing this. It's not a punishment, it's an incentive, and again, just make sure everyone knows the purpose behind these targets is ultimately to do well. So the back of the prom passport, I've mentioned points already. There is the potential to gain 170 points within the middle section of the booklet across all the different subjects. And we're saying you need to pass the particular passport 150 passport points. So again, that's your target that you would need to aim for. With the attendance, the whole school target's 95, and that's why it's the same for the prom passport. And that is relevant to those 5 weeks that the passport is relevant for. So it's not your cumulative one from the start of the year, it's within those 5 weeks. So again, if you're poorly, that should be okay, because again, we do understand sometimes people get a little bit poorly, and obviously with the COVID rules at the moment, that would be taken into account. So again, that would all get filled in, and then your tutor comment and recommendation that you passed that booklet, and then that would get sent up to the heads of house. So myself, Mrs. Phillips, Mrs. Jarvis and Mrs. Marley. They in turn would again fill it in and put their recommendation in. If there's a recommendation by the form tutor that unfortunately you haven't met the targets, and that would be then a conversation that they could have to kind of hopefully come up with a strategy that will help make sure the other booklets run better. And then that would all get passed to me after we've finished all of that. Now, when the letters come out, and they'll come out before we start the first booklet on the 14th of November, a section in there which I think is really important to mention, because again, I'm a parent. I would hate to think I'd spent a lot of money on dresses or suits or all the other stuff that goes along with a prom, and then be turned around and told that my child wasn't actually allowed to go. So that's why we're explaining all the rules now. So it's not going to be a last minute decision. It will be a conversation that will be had over the course of the year. But again, this bit is really important. So as a school event, we reserve the right to refuse a place due to an exclusion, attendance below 95%, serious poor behaviour at any point during examinations or leading up to and including prom night. So they are things that the second or the last two especially are outside that actual passport. Whilst it may cause distress to be withdrawn from the prom, and this is important, this is why we're explaining it now, failure to meet our expectation will be the result of pupils' own poor choices. So again, don't blame the school if something happens because it wasn't our decision that the pupil has chosen to do whatever it was that resulted in them being excluded, for example. And should a pupil not fulfil their passport to the prom, then parents or carers will be contacted and all money will be refunded. So again, we would encourage you to put your deposits in at an appropriate time, because that's linked to us booking Walworth Castle, and again, slightly separate to the whole focus of the passport to the prom for its motivational purposes, and again, just that added focus. So usually at this point I would show a picture from last year's prom, but unfortunately we haven't quite had that yet due to the COVID restrictions. So this is from the year before last. And again, you can see, even though we've put those things in place, there's still the vast majority of each year group have been able to attend, enjoy the prom and celebrate their successes, which is what it's all about. So if anyone's got any other questions about the prom itself or the process, please feel free to just come and see me in school if it's a pupil, or if it's a parent, get in touch with me by email, which is hampson@wyvernacademy.org. Thank you.